Okay, so some late night gardening. Um, I'm kind of dreary, but I got sweet potato slips growing. You can see that, growing them in the water. So I've showed this in a past video. You can see the roots. So the purple things you want to remove, and that's where you're going to basically take this thing out. So these things are where you're going to grow a new potato from. So you got to detach these and try to root these. So you got the tubers rooting. What you need to do is get the slips to root. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick one. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let me see if I can set this camera up. And I'm just going to take a knife. I'm going to cut right at the surface. Okay. Hard to do. So this is going to go right back in the water. And where is this thing going to go? Well, some people would try to plant this in dirt or plant it in separate water. I'm going to put it right back in the water I already have in there and hope that that makes it easier to root. Now, there's a bit of a reasoning behind this. A lot of people use rooting powder, which is supposed to, I guess, either mimic or enhance auxins. Auxins are what basically, it's a hormone in a plant that basically redirects the plant's energy into the bottom of the stem, more or less driving root growth. Now, so that's like the leading thing. If you look on YouTube, that's going to be the leading thing that people believe is going to drive these things to root, is that you want to basically maximize the auxins. However, if you've ever read some research, they found out that auxins are not the limiting factor. I can link this if you want. And they are not the limiting factor to root growth or rooting stems. What they found is that the ability to basically redirect sugars, namely sucrose, in the plant is what was the limiting factor in these studies of directing root growth. So, I mean, I don't remember all the details. There was possibly some cases where they limited the expression of auxins in stems in certain plant models, and even though they supplied sucrose, they were still able to grow roots. So it wasn't exact. They proved some way, I don't recall, this was years ago I read this, that auxins are not the limiting factor and sucrose is. As a matter of fact, there's an old tree in Texas, I don't remember what the name of this tree was, but it was a tree that was very popular. I think it was an oak tree, and it was a tree where some of the old Texans, probably as back as the 1800s, used to go, and some of these people were pillars of the community, and they used to make decisions about law and policy under this tree. And what happened was supposedly the tree was poisoned somehow by some type of herbicide, accidentally or purposely, I don't really recall. So what they did was they actually injected this tree with sucrose and other types of sugars to basically try to feed this thing directly. So what basically happens in a plant is, the um, the leaves basically create your sugars mostly, and it kind of sends them down the pipe and into the roots. So when you inject sugar into a plant, you're basically, artificially creating its sugar supply so that it can root. So my idea with this is that sweet potatoes, right? They're sweet. Okay. So what is usually sweet? Well, sugars. So the idea is that sugars, in my hypothesis, are being more likely produced in a sweet potato. And I have a feeling that the water that the sweet potato settles in is drawing out sugars, and it's possibly the sugars in the sweet potato is allowing that tuber to root. So I'm guessing that maybe this stem can benefit from the sugars being put out by this that's dissolving in this water, and possibly any auxins this is creating. So this solution that's already in there might be highly beneficial. And I've heard of some people talking about taking a certain type of water that they've rooted one thing in and then root other plants in, something of that nature. Like some particular cuttings that root particularly easy because some people say they potentially drive more auxins into the solution, or they produce more auxins in general, and some of that hormone leaks into the solution that it's rooted in, and then basically you can root other things in it because they benefit from that auxin production. So yes, I mean, auxins do basically help drive root growth, but they are not, at the very least, the limiting factor from what some research has presented. So let's see how this grows. Let's see if we can shortcut this process and get it going quick. I'm looking to put this stuff in the ground and see what happens pretty quickly. And as for those frozen peas, no, they have not sprouted yet, but that's 2 days off putting them in the pot. We'll see what happens.